Welcome to this lesson on ratio problems. Please make sure you have these notes in front of you so we can begin our lesson. The learning objective for this lesson says, I can use ratio reasoning to solve problems. Example 1 says, Megan prepares a fruit punch using apple juice and orange juice in the ratio 4:3. The first part of the question says, if the total volume of the fruit punch is 630 milliliters, find the volume of the apple juice Megan uses. By reading this question, they're giving me a ratio of apple juice to orange juice, that's 4:3. So when I think about that, that is a part to part ratio because apple juice and orange juice are two separate parts to this recipe. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram or a bar model that represents a 4:3 ratio. So here's the apple juice. It's going to have 4 boxes. Orange juice will have 3 boxes long. So when I read the first part of this question, it says if the total volume of the fruit punch is 630 milliliters, they're telling me that the apple juice plus the orange juice together will be 630 milliliters. So in my tape diagram, I'm going to group all of this and call it 630 milliliters because it represents both the apple juice and the orange juice. So when I count up the units, there are 4 units for apple juice and there are 3 units for orange juice. So there's a total of 7 units that make up this fruit punch. So I'm going to take 630 milliliters. I'm going to divide it by 7 because there are 7 units that make up this recipe. I'm going to do the math. 630 divided by 7 gets me 90 milliliters. So what that means is 1 unit of this recipe is equal to 90 milliliters. So to make it a lot clearer, I can go ahead and write 90 in each box because each of these units represents 90 milliliters. So now we can go ahead and answer the question. It says find the volume of the apple juice Megan uses. Well, Megan uses 4 units of apple juice, and I'm going to multiply that by 90 because each of the unit represents 90. And 4 times 90 is 360 milliliters of apple juice. And that would be my first answer to this problem. Now let's go ahead and take a look at part B. Part B says Megan uses 520 milliliters of apple juice to make the fruit punch. Find the volume of the orange juice she uses. For this part of the problem, I'm still using the same exact ratio, the 4:3 ratio given to me at the beginning. A diagram that represents that situation. The only difference now is they're telling me that she uses 520 milliliters of apple juice. So instead of grouping the entire thing like I did in the last problem, I'm just going to group the apple juice and call that 520. So there are 4 units that represents the apple juice. So I'm going to take 520 and divide it by 4 because there are 4 total units, and that gets me 130 milliliters, which equals 1 unit. So in the boxes, or in each of the box of the bar model, it's worth 130. Now let's go ahead and answer the question. It says, find the volume of the orange juice. For the orange juice, she has 3 units. I'm going to multiply that by 130 because each unit is worth 130. So the final answer is 390 milliliters of orange juice. For example 2, it says Jenny prepares a ceramic glaze mixture of feldspar, red iron oxide, and silica in the ratio of 5:1. to 2 to 3. The mass of the mixture is 1 kilogram and 200 grams. Find the mass of each ingredient used to prepare the mixture. By reading this problem, I know that they're giving me a part-to-part ratio, because feldspar, red iron oxide, and silica are 3 separate ingredients. So let's go ahead and draw a tape diagram for that. Feldspar will have 5 units. Iron oxide will have 2 units. And try to make each of the units the same. So we'll have 3 units. To make this problem easier, they're giving us the mass of the mixture is 1 kilogram and 200 grams. Let's go ahead and convert that to be one single unit so that we're not dealing with 2 different units. I know that 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. So I can go ahead and cross this out, and I can write 1,200 grams, because 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, plus the 200 grams that I already had would be 1,200 grams. So that's the entire mixture. I can go ahead and group the entire bar model and call all of this 1,200 grams. Now we can figure out the value of each unit. There are a total of 10 units. There's 5 for the feldspar, plus 2 for the red iron oxide, and 3 for the silica. And together they make 10. So we've got 10 units. So I've got 1,200 divided by 10, and that gets me 1,200. 120 grams per 1 unit. That means each of the boxes are worth 120. So let's go ahead and find the amount for each ingredient. For feldspar, we have 5 units, and I can multiply that by 120, and 120 times 5 gets me 600 grams. So I would have 600 grams of feldspar. For red iron oxide, I have 2 units. I'm going to multiply that by 120 since each unit is worth 120. So red iron oxide would have 240 grams. For silica, I have 3 units. I'm going to multiply that by 120, and that gets me 360 grams. For chemistry, it says the ratio of the number of CDs Brad has to the number of CDs Keith has is 2 to 3. The ratio of the number of CDs Keith has to the number of CDs Simone has is 6 to 11. Brad has 24 CDs. How many CDs do Keith and Simone have altogether? This problem makes it a little bit more complicated because now we have 3 people with 2 different ratios. But we know that both of the ratios are going to be part to part because Keith and Brad are 2 different people and Keith and Simone are 2 different people. So I'm going to break this up into 2 different parts. I'm going to call this scenario 1, and this side is going to be scenario 2. Alright, so in scenario 1 we're dealing with Brad and Keith. So Brad's bar model will have 2 boxes, and Keith's bar model will have 3 boxes. Alright, so that's scenario number 1. In scenario number 2, they're still talking about Keith. But Keith doesn't have a bar model of 3 anymore. He's got a ratio of 6. So one way we can think about this is we can take his example in scenario 1, which he has 3 boxes. And if I multiply that by 2, or if I scale up, I'm multiplying it by 2, that will now get me the 6 boxes that I need in his next scenario. And we know that Simone has 11. So there's the 2 ratios. We've got scenario 1 with Brad and Keith. Now we have scenario number 2 with Keith and Simone. But if I multiplied Keith by 2, we should probably do that to Brad so that we can keep the units consistent. So in scenario number 2, even though Brad was not mentioned, Brad now has 4 units in scenario number 2, because all we did was we scaled up the information from scenario number 1. Giving us additional information, they're saying that Brad has 24 CDs. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put the grouping symbol above Brad's bar model and call that 24. And Brad has 4 units in his bar model, so I'm going to take 24 divided by the 4 units. So each unit is worth 6. So let's write 6 in all of the boxes. Now we have enough information to answer the question. We can figure out how many Keith has by taking Keith's 6 units and multiplying it by the 6 that each unit is worth. So Keith has 36 CDs. And we can do the same exact thing for Simone. Simone has 11 units. Multiply it by the 6 in each box. That gets us 66 CDs for Simone. Well, let's answer the question. It says, how many do Keith and Simone have all together? So if I take 36 for Keith plus the 66 that Simone has, the both of them together combined has 102 CDs together. Example 4, it says Sam has US and foreign stamps. The ratio of the number of US stamps to the number of foreign stamps was 3 to 4. He bought 21 more US stamps, and the ratio became 9 to 8. So there's 2 questions. The first question says, how many foreign stamps did Sam have? And the second question says, how many US stamps did Sam have in the end? So as we read it, once again, it has two different ratios. So we have a before situation, and then after he bought the 21 US stamps, we've got an after situation. So I'm going to go ahead and split this into 2 parts. This is the ratio information for the before situation, and this side will be the after. After we buy the 21 US stamps. All right, we know that there are part-to-part ratios, so I'm going to write US stamps. So this will have a tape diagram of 3 units long, and the foreign stamps will have a tape diagram of 4 units long. So when I think about the after situation says that he bought 21 more US stamps. So he didn't buy 21 more foreign stamps. So in my mind, I know that the foreign stamps tape diagram or bar model should not get any longer because we didn't add to them. The only thing we added to was the US stamps. So in the after situation, I'm going to go ahead and draw the same exact bar model that I did in the before situation because I didn't add anything to it. But what I will do is I'm going to make these 4 boxes become 8 because 8 is the new ratio number that we have in our after situation. So instead of adding 4 more boxes, I can create 4 more boxes within the given bar model. So I can divide this one into half, the second into half, the third into half, and the fourth into half. And now I've got 8 boxes. I'm going to go ahead and redraw the US bar model. That's a 3 boxes long. So we still have the original amount of US stamps that we were given. And I'm going to go ahead and divide these up as well. Because if I do it to the bottom, I want to make sure I'm consistent and do it with the top. Now if I look at this ratio right here, this ratio is a 6 to 8 ratio. And it doesn't match up with the 9 to 8 ratio that I need. So if I want to make it a 9 to 8 ratio, I need to add more boxes to the US stamps. So if I want to make that 6 to 8 ratio look like a 9 to 8 ratio, I actually need to add 3 more boxes that are the same unit size of the existing. So here's one more, so that becomes a 7 to 8 ratio. This becomes an 8 to 8 ratio. And now this becomes a 9 to 8 ratio. These 3 new boxes that I added are the additional US stamps that I purchased, or that Sam purchased. So all 3 of these units are worth 21. So if I take 21 and I divide it by 3, I know that 1 unit is worth 7. 1 unit equals 7, which means every single box is worth a total of 7. We have enough information to answer the bottom questions. How many foreign stamps did Sam have? Well, Sam has 8 units, and each unit is worth 7. So 8 times 7 is equal to 56 stamps. For the second scenario, or the second problem, it says, how many US stamps did Sam have in the end? Well, in the end, Sam has 9 units, and each of the units are worth 7, so 9 times 7 is equal to 63 stamps. I know it's not on your sheet, but I would like you to figure out how to do a problem like this, so just be aware of, or just take some time to just go through this problem just so that you're aware of how to do it. Example 5 says, a survey found that 12 out of 15 people in the United States prefer eating at a restaurant over cooking at home. If 400 people selected eating at a restaurant on the survey, how many people took the survey? So this ratio, 12 out of the 15 people, that is a part total ratio. Because 12 people answered the question out of a total of 15. So we have a 12 to 15 ratio. But that can be reduced to 4 to 5. Since this is a part to total ratio, let's go ahead and draw a part to total diagram. So this is going to have a total amount of 5 boxes. But I'm going to shade 4 of them. And these 4 are the people that like to eat at restaurants, or selected eating at restaurants. The problem says there are 400 of those people. So I'm going to group that and call that 400. So if I do 400 divided by the 4, each unit is worth 100. This is 100, that's 100, 100. So the total question says, how many people took the survey? Well, there are 5 units. And we'll multiply that by 100 because each of the unit is worth 100. So that means 500 people took the survey. So now that you've completed this lesson, go ahead and self-rate yourself and let us know how you feel. If there's any part of this lesson that you do not understand, please go back and watch it again.